The black millionaire found his old maid living on the streets. What he did next melted hearts. The rain hammered against the windshield of Marcus Thompson's black Bentley as he navigated through the downtown streets of Chicago. At 35, he had everything most people could only dream of. A tech empire worth over $200 million, penthouse apartments in 3 cities, and a name that commanded respect in boardrooms across the nation. But tonight, something felt different. Tonight, the weight of his success felt heavier than usual. Before we dive into this incredible story that will challenge everything you think you know about gratitude and human connection, I want you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this one remind us why we need more kindness in this world. And trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless. Marcus had been driving aimlessly for hours, trying to clear his head after another exhausting board meeting. His company, Thompson Tech Solutions, had just secured a contract worth $50 million, but instead of celebration, he felt empty. The higher he climbed, the more isolated he became. Success, he was learning, could be the loneliest mountain to scale. As he stopped at a red light near the old neighborhood where he grew up, something caught his eye. Huddled beneath a torn cardboard shelter next to a closed grocery store, an elderly woman sat shivering in the cold October rain. Her clothes were soaked through, and she clutched a small bag to her chest like it contained everything she owned in the world. Marcus almost drove on. He'd seen countless homeless people in the city, and while he donated generously to shelters and charities, he rarely stopped to interact directly. But something about this woman made him pause. Maybe it was the way she sat with such dignity despite her circumstances, or maybe it was the familiar way she held her head high, even in her lowest moment. He pulled over and grabbed an umbrella from his back seat. As he approached, the woman looked up, and Marcus felt his entire world shift beneath his feet. Those eyes, those kind, weathered eyes that had watched over him during the most formative years of his life. "Mrs. Rodriguez," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rain. The woman squinted through the darkness, confusion clouding her features. Then recognition dawned, and her hand flew to her mouth. "Marcus, little Marcus Thompson." Her voice cracked with disbelief. 30 years melted away in an instant. Marcus was suddenly 8 years old again, coming home from school to find Elena Rodriguez, his family's housekeeper, waiting with fresh cookies and a warm smile. She had been more than hired help. She had been his protector, his confidant, his second mother during the years when his own parents worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what? How did you—" Marcus couldn't finish the sentence. His throat felt tight, and his hands trembled as he held the umbrella over her frail form. Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, mijo, look at you. Look how handsome and successful you've become. I always knew you would do great things." Even in her desperate situation, her first instinct was to celebrate his success. That was Elena Rodriguez, always putting others before herself, always finding light in the darkest moments. Marcus knelt down beside her, not caring that his $1,000 suit was getting soaked. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please, let me help you. Let me get you somewhere warm and dry." She shook her head, pride still intact, despite everything. "No, no, mijo. I don't want to be a burden. You have your own life now, your own family to worry about." "You could never be a burden," Marcus said firmly. "Never. Not after everything you did for me and my family." As he helped her to her feet, Marcus's mind raced back to those childhood memories. Elena had worked for his family for 5 years, from when he was 8 until he was 13. She had arrived every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, never missing a day, even when she was sick. She had taught him Spanish, helped him with homework, and listened to his dreams about becoming a businessman someday. But more than that, she had been there during the hardest period of his life. When his father lost his job at the factory and his mother had to work double shifts at the hospital, Elena had been his constant. She had made sure he ate proper meals, helped him with school projects, and tucked him in at night when his parents couldn't be there. He remembered the day she left. His family's financial situation had become so dire that they could no longer afford to pay her. Marcus had cried for days, begging his parents to find a way to keep her. Elena had hugged him tight and promised that no matter where life took them, she would always love him like her own son. "I never forgot you," Marcus whispered as he guided her toward his car. Not for a single day. The drive to his penthouse was filled with Elena's story, each word breaking Marcus's heart a little more. After leaving his family, she had found work with several other families, always sending money back to her daughter in Mexico. But as she aged, the work became harder to find. Younger women were preferred, and Elena's arthritis made the physical demands increasingly difficult. "I tried to save money," she explained, her voice soft and tired. "But my daughter, she got sick. Cancer. I spent everything I had saved for her treatments. Everything." Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Did she recovered, gracias a Dios. But the medical bills, they took everything. And then the family I was working for, they said I was too slow, too old. They let me go 6 months ago." 6 months? Marcus couldn't hide his shock. "You've been on the streets for 6 months." Eleanor nodded. "I tried the shelters, but they're always full. And the waiting lists for senior housing, they're so long. I've been trying to stay strong, to find work, but—" Her voice trailed off. Marcus felt a rage building inside him, not at Elena, but at a system that could allow someone so good, so deserving, to fall through the cracks. Here was a woman who had dedicated her life to caring for others, who had sacrificed everything for her family, and society had simply discarded her when she needed help the most. When they reached his building, the doorman's eyes widened at the sight of Marcus helping the elderly, disheveled woman from his car. Marcus shot him a look that said everything he needed to know about treating Elena with respect. In his penthouse, Marcus watched as Elena took in her surroundings with wonder. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the Chicago skyline, and the modern furnishings spoke of wealth beyond imagination. "Mijo, this is beautiful," she said, touching a silk curtain gently. "And you really did become the successful businessman you always dreamed of being." Marcus helped her to the couch and brought her a warm blanket and hot tea. As she sipped gratefully, he studied her face. The years had been kind in some ways. Her smile was still radiant, her eyes still sparkled with warmth, but he could see the toll that hardship had taken. She was thinner than he remembered, and there was a weariness in her movements that spoke of too many nights sleeping on cold concrete. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." She nodded, setting down her teacup. "Why didn't you reach out to me? I've been successful for years now. My company has been in the news. My name is known. Why didn't you try to contact me?" Elena's eyes filled with tears again. "Oh, Marcus, how could I? You had moved on to such an important life. I was just the maid, just someone from your past. I didn't want to seem like I was trying to take advantage of your success." Marcus felt his heart shatter. "Just the maid. Mrs. Rodriguez, you were never just anything to me. You were family. You are family." He knelt in front of her, taking her weathered hands in his. "Do you remember what you used to tell me when I was scared about my future? When I worried that I'd never amount to anything because we were poor?" Elena smiled through her tears. "I told you that success isn't about how much money you have. It's about how much love you give and receive. And you told me that the measure of a person isn't where they come from, but how they treat others when they have the power to help." Elena nodded. "I remember. Well, Mrs. Rodriguez, I have that power now, and I'm going to use it." Over the next few days, Marcus threw himself into helping Elena with the same intensity he brought to his business ventures. First, he took her to the best doctors in Chicago for a complete health evaluation. Her arthritis was manageable with proper medication, and aside from being malnourished and exhausted, she was in remarkably good health for her 72 years. But Marcus's plans went far beyond just getting Elena back on her feet. As he sat in his office the following Monday, he called his assistant Jennifer into his office. "Jennifer, I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of the week. I have something important to take care of." "Sir, you have the Morrison presentation on Thursday and the board meeting on Friday. Reschedule them. This is more important." Jennifer had worked for Marcus for 3 years and had never seen him prioritize anything over business. Her curiosity was evident, but she knew better than to ask questions. Marcus spent the week researching senior housing options, but everything he found felt inadequate. The nice facilities had waiting lists stretching years into the future, and the available options were either too expensive for most seniors or too depressing for someone as vibrant as Elena. That's when the idea hit him. He called his real estate agent, David Kim, who had helped him acquire several properties over the years. "David, I need you to find me something specific. A large property, maybe an old mansion or estate, something with character and space for renovation. Budget is no object. What kind of business venture are you planning, Marcus?" "The most important one of my life." 3 weeks later, Marcus stood with Elena in front of a magnificent Victorian mansion in Oak Park, just outside Chicago. The property had been on the market for 2 years, its size and renovation needs scaring off most buyers. "It's beautiful," Elena breathed, admiring the ornate architecture and sprawling grounds. "It's going to be even more beautiful," Marcus said with a smile, "because it's going to be home." Elena looked confused. "Home?" Marcus turned to face her, his eyes bright with excitement. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I want you to help me create something special. A place where seniors like you, people who have given their whole lives to caring for others, can live with dignity and purpose." He gestured toward the mansion. "This is going to be the Elena Rodriguez Center for Senior Living. Not just a place to exist, but a place to thrive, gardens to tend, kitchens to cook in, spaces to create and learn and grow." Elena's hands flew to her mouth. "Marcus, you can't. This is too much." "It's not nearly enough," Marcus said firmly. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you taught me that success means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up. You showed me what unconditional love looks like. You gave me the foundation I needed to become who I am today. This isn't charity. This is gratitude." But Marcus wasn't finished. Over the next 6 months, as construction crews transformed the mansion into a state-of-the-art senior living facility, he worked with Elena to develop something unprecedented. Instead of the typical model where seniors were simply cared for, the Elena Rodriguez Center would be a place where residents contributed their skills and wisdom to the community. Elena, despite Marcus's insistence that she didn't need to work, threw herself into the project with renewed energy. She helped design the communal kitchen, planned the garden layouts, and interviewed potential residents. Her experience and insight proved invaluable in creating a space that truly felt like home. The center would house 30 seniors, each with their own private apartment but sharing common spaces designed to foster community and purpose. There would be a teaching kitchen where residents could share their culinary traditions, art studios for creative expression, and a greenhouse where they could grow their own food. But the most innovative aspect was the mentorship program Marcus developed. Local schools would bring students to the center regularly, pairing them with residents who could share their life experiences and skills. Elena, with her gift for languages and her warm heart, would coordinate the program. 6 months after that rainy night when Marcus found Elena on the streets, the Elena Rodriguez Center for Senior Living officially opened its doors. The opening ceremony was covered by local news stations, but Marcus insisted that the focus be on the residents and their stories, not on his philanthropy. As Elena cut the ribbon, surrounded by the first group of residents who had already become like family to her, Marcus stood in the back of the crowd, tears streaming down his face. His parents, now in their 60s and still working despite his offers to support them, stood beside him, with pride radiating from their faces. "You did good, mijo," his mother whispered. Elena would be so proud. She is proud, Marcus corrected. She's right there, about to start the next chapter of her life. But the story doesn't end there. As word spread about the Elena Rodriguez Center and its unique approach to senior living, something unexpected happened. Other business leaders began reaching out to Marcus, wanting to replicate the model in their own cities. What had started as one man's desire to help the woman who had shaped his childhood was becoming a movement. Elena, now the official director of resident services, found herself traveling to conferences and speaking to groups about dignified aging and the value of intergenerational connection. The woman who had once felt invisible and discarded was now a sought-after expert, her wisdom and experience finally receiving the recognition they deserved. 1 year after the center opened, Marcus received a call that would change everything once again. Elena's daughter, Maria, was calling from Mexico City. "Mr. Thompson," she said through tears, "I don't know how to thank you for what you've done for my mother, but I have news that I think will make her very happy." Maria went on to explain that she had been accepted into a nursing program at Northwestern University in Chicago. She wanted to move to the United States to be closer to her mother and to contribute to the work being done at the center. When Marcus shared the news with Elena, she collapsed into his arms, sobbing with joy. For the first time in decades, her family would be together again. At the 1-year anniversary celebration of the Elena Rodriguez Center, Marcus stood before a crowd of residents, their families, community leaders, and media representatives. But his eyes were focused on Elena, who sat in the front row next to her daughter, both of them glowing with happiness. "A year ago," Marcus began, "I thought I understood what success meant. I had money, recognition, power, but I was missing the most important thing, purpose. It took finding someone from my past, someone who had taught me everything about love and service, to remind me what really matters." He paused, looking directly at Elena. "Mrs. Rodriguez taught me that we are all connected, that the kindness we show to others comes back to us in ways we never expect. She showed me that the measure of a life isn't what we accumulate, but what we give away." The audience erupted in applause, but Marcus raised his hand for quiet. "Today, I'm announcing that the Elena Rodriguez Foundation will be expanding. We're going to build 10 more centers across the country over the next 5 years. But more than that, we're going to change the conversation about aging in America. We're going to show the world that our seniors aren't burdens to be managed, but treasures to be cherished." As the celebration continued around them, Marcus and Elena stepped outside onto the center's beautiful garden terrace. The sun was setting over Chicago, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. "Do you ever think about that night?" Marcus asked. "That rainy night when I found you?" Elena smiled, her face peaceful and content. "I think about it every day, but not as the night you found me. I think of it as the night God reminded us both that love never dies. It just waits for the right moment to bloom again." Marcus nodded, understanding flooding through him. "And I spent so many years climbing the ladder of success, thinking I was leaving my past behind. But the truth is, the best parts of my past were always meant to be part of my future. And the best parts of our future," Elena added, "are always built on the love we shared in the past." As they stood there together, watching the sunset paint the sky, Marcus realized that he had finally found what he had been searching for all those years. Not just success, but significance. Not just wealth, but wisdom. Not just achievement, but authentic connection. The Elena Rodriguez Center had become more than just a place for seniors to live. It had become a symbol of what's possible when we remember that our greatest treasures are often the people who loved us when we had nothing to offer in return. Elena had taught him that lesson as a child, and now, decades later, she was teaching it to an entire community. The maid who had once been invisible was now illuminating the path forward for countless others. And Marcus? He had learned that sometimes the greatest success comes not from reaching the top, but from reaching back to lift others up alongside you. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, I need you to do something right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video if you believe in the power of gratitude and human connection. And subscribe to this channel because we need more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. The Elena Rodriguez Center continues to thrive today, serving as a model for dignified senior living across the country. Elena, now 74, still greets every new resident personally, sharing her story and reminding them that their best days aren't behind them, but ahead. And Marcus, he learned that the greatest return on investment isn't measured in dollars, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. Sometimes the people who shape us most profoundly are the ones we least expect. Sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as ordinary moments, and sometimes finding someone from our past is exactly what we need to discover our future. Remember, success without service is just selfishness, wealth without wisdom is just waste, and achievement without appreciation is just emptiness. The measure of our lives isn't what we accumulate, but what we give away. It's not where we end up, but who we lift up along the way. Thank you for watching, and remember, kindness is never wasted, love is never lost, and it's never too late to make a difference in someone's life.